Fawzia Koofi. It's hard to believe it's been 3.5 years since the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, the collapse of the republic there. What is life like in Afghanistan today?
Absolutely. You can imagine how hard it is, especially for women who have been deprived of any right in the past 3.5 years. And it's now the 4th year. Everything else could be compensated, but not education. The years that our girls lost, and they have been out of schools and universities. Economically, the fact that women are not in the job market and they're not, their skills are not used in the labor market. Afghanistan has $3 billion deficit to our economy in a time that the country already 90% more are under poverty line. So the situation in Afghanistan is not only fragile in terms of security, where Daesh, ISIS, other military extremist groups find it safe haven to operate from Afghanistan, but also in terms of the human rights. I think it's one of the countries in the world that women suffer to the extent that they suffer in Afghanistan, and deprived and erased completely from any sphere of life.
That was a topic last year at the Munich Security Conference. There were 12 different nations, including Canada, Germany, France, that signed a joint statement condemning the Taliban for this very reason. Did anything come from that?
I think the Taliban will not open, if we believe that we will influence Taliban so that they reverse some of their edicts. I think it will be naive of us to believe that, because I think the Taliban existence is on the suppression of people. Their existence is on their full-fledged war against women. So I don't think they will actually reverse, especially the leader, Hibatullah, who all the edicts come from him and through his ministers, Minister of Higher Education, Vice and Virtue, Religious Affairs. So these are like the group that are the hardliners affiliated with him, and he tried to implement his edicts through him. So I don't think this will actually change anything in terms of current status quo. What I hope and what will change is the pressure, international pressure, will create further division among the Taliban. And further division is weakening the Taliban. And that is in the interest of us, in the interest of people of Afghanistan, because a weakened Taliban will give more platform for leverage for a political process. Because I believe without changing that political ecosystem, trying to influence Taliban to change will probably not work.
So you spoke a bit about the level of poverty in Afghanistan right now. Half of the country relies on aid, and a lot of that aid comes from the United States. Obviously, we've heard from the White House, President Trump wants to stop that level of foreign aid. What impact will that have on Afghanistan?
So in the past 3.5 years, $7 billion went to Afghanistan in the form of aid. 3 point something comes from the United States. Still, 4 point something billion continues from European and other countries, including countries in the region, Muslim countries, etc. So the humanitarian aid still continues. I'm hoping the humanitarian aid from the United States will continue as well. I mean, I feel bad when I say this, because Afghanistan is a rich country, trillions of dollars underground in terms of natural resources, but it's a poor nation because of poverty, because of war, and the more poor the people are, the more they will become voiceless, right? So, and that's what the Taliban want. In addition, I want to say that it was not only the humanitarian aid. There was another untracked money that was going to Taliban. And I think it still continues. We want to know where that money comes from. 40 million per week in terms of cash. There was no clarity on where it's coming from. So I think that people of Afghanistan deserve clarity, transparency on the money that was going to Afghanistan, supported Taliban, pay their salary, it strengthened their security under the name of aid, or even untracked, we didn't know. So that is something that should stop.
Let's talk a bit about, there are also millions of Afghans who are living in displacement, who have left the country through the years of war. Some of them are in Pakistan. Some of them are waiting and hoping to come to the United States, but the president has suspended the refugee program. What is the situation right now for those who've been displaced?
Horrible. I mean, millions of people from Afghanistan, women, children, people who highly educated, very dignified part of our society with dignified jobs and career, they had to leave their country, and nobody wants to leave the country if your country is safe for you. This is a country we invested our time and our blood. this is a country we wanted to see differently, but things went in a way that the country is not our favorite country anymore, at least under the Taliban. So millions are in the neighboring countries waiting for their final destination in the United States, in Europe. Our neighboring countries have been very generous during the years of war, but lately they have been very harsh on these displaced people, refugees in Pakistan and Iran, and I have been in contact with them. Their situation is horrible in terms of the police going after them, trying to expel them. When they go, basically you send somebody to their violators. I hope that the United States and Europe will revise their policy in terms of allowing these people to come to their final destination. I understand in Europe it's also a political discussion. There have been incidences where people were involved in violence.
Including here in Munich.
Including here in like 2-3 days ago. I must say that these are the people we are also escaping from, right? So we are in a common fight for that. And these people do not represent Afghanistan, do not represent majority of the people who are now, seeking asylum in Europe. They are actually escaping the same extremists. So there should be a proper screening, a proper, checking process, but they should loosen up the policies to allow these people come for final resettlement until our own country is safe. We don't want to live in Europe or US forever. Nobody wants to leave their country, but it's a temporary measurement until our own country is safe for us to return.
So there's a bit of a catch-22 because no country will recognize the Taliban as the government of Afghanistan because of the human rights violations, but then no one is really engaging diplomatically with the Taliban. How would you like the Trump administration to approach the government right now in Afghanistan?
Oh, I must say that there has been a lot of engagement, including by the United States with the Taliban. There has been on the record and there have been out of record engagement. So many diplomatic missions, including from European countries to Afghanistan. The problem with those engagements is that there was no principle on what we want to achieve at the end of these engagements. So any country that engages with Taliban, they engage for their own issues, not for the human rights issue, not for Afghanistan issue. We don't want to fix the Taliban. You don't want to fix the Taliban. We want to fix Afghanistan. We want to help people of Afghanistan. And the way to help people of Afghanistan is not to engage without any principle with Taliban. That has only emboldened Taliban because the Taliban take it for granted. They think, well, the world signed deal with us. They have to engage with us because they have no other option. Otherwise, we will put a security threat to the world. They're using that leverage. I think it's time for the world to be united and firm on what do they expect from Afghanistan strategically. I believe that there should be a way forward in terms of a political prospect. The world must engage with political opposition, with women groups. As the UN Secretary General report says, there was an independent assessment report says that there should be a political process. That political process is not possible if Taliban are not obliged to obey and to fulfill their own commitment in the Doha Agreement that was signed with the Taliban, which says there should be a political process. The Taliban see themselves as the only victory power, and they see the world engagement with them as if the world is responsible and obliged to engage with them. They see that as it's a world that is obliged to engage with them, and they don't have any other choice not to engage with the Taliban, which engagement probably is the way forward, but it has to be principled. Like, what do we want? And do we really want to change the status quo in Afghanistan?
And so what short of civil war leads to that conclusion in Afghanistan if the Taliban is so intractable in its views?
Well, I think the Taliban, one of the possible scenarios probably would be the civil war, including some of the Taliban who will be unhappy with the leader. There are already division among the Taliban. Some of the Taliban senior leaders left the country. I think the further the pressure will be on Taliban from international organizations like the ICJ, like the ICC, the money that was going to Afghanistan, if that stops, I think there will be further division, because some of these ministers who want to work with the world, they will probably hold the leader accountable, and this will lead to the leader becoming harsher and further division. Two possible scenarios: either the divided part will try to open up for a political dialogue, for a political process, for a change of the situation, or they will start fighting back the leader. In both situations, it is in the interest of the people of Afghanistan.
Fawzia Koofi, thank you so much.
Thank you.